Hey, what's up, YouTube? So I've decided to try to do some Q&A, question and answers, because I get a lot of messages here on YouTube, and I think maybe this might be faster, it might be good, because I get a lot of the same questions over and over again. So I'm just going to start reading people's messages and just answering on here. So this first one is from 13 Jared, and it says, "Hi, I'm 15 and I want a leopard gecko. I watched your Tokay video about Eric and I was wondering if I had to treat the leopard gecko the same way." Well, Tokay geckos are different than leopard geckos. Leopard geckos are desert geckos, and the Tokay gecko, here's one right here, these guys are tropical and arboreal. So you want to take care of them differently. So it's really important whenever you're, interested in getting a pet reptile that you want to research it, read books about it, look at different internet websites. You guys can go on reptile forums and talk to people who have owned these types of reptiles before and get some advice on care and diet and things like that. Then he also says, "If I looked up videos and I see how people have calcium bowls for their geckos, and I was wondering if I needed one and if I need not only just a heat lamp but the red light or lamp." Okay, well, a calcium bowl is pretty good for a leopard gecko. You can actually put them in with any geckos. What people do, they put the calcium, just a really shallow dish of calcium, they put that in there in case, if the lizard is needing any extra calcium, it'll just go to the bowl and it will lick up calcium as it's needed. And here where it says just a heat lamp, but the red light or lamp. Well, the red light is a heat lamp, but I think you're talking about if they need a UV light and a heat lamp. Well, for leopard geckos, since they're nocturnal, you don't necessarily need to have a UV light. Some people do keep them with a UV light, that's their preference. But if you do not keep a UV light on the nocturnal geckos, what you want to do is every time you supplement with calcium, you need to make sure that the calcium has the vitamin D3 in it. Otherwise, the lizard won't be able to absorb the calcium without that vitamin D3. And that's what the UV light is used for. For diurnal reptiles that are active in the daytime, they get vitamin D through their skin. Just like this, you can see right here, what will happen is the UV light will come down and desynthesis will happen in the skin, and then the calcium that the lizard gets in its diet can be absorbed because it has the vitamin D in its skin. So that's what the UVB is needed for. But like I said, if your gecko is nocturnal, you don't really need a UV light. As long as you supplement with calcium with the added D3 in it. So let's see. And if I needed a hydration box. Yeah, leopard geckos should have a hydration box. It's just a box you cut out a hole in, you put damp moss inside of it. That way if they get too dry, let's say, they're going into a shed and they're too dry and they can't shed right, they'll go in, they'll utilize the box, they'll get moist, shed, and come on out. And then he says, "I just want a lizard that will be a good pet and I can let crawl on my bed or chill on my hand. If you think another lizard would be better, just speak your mind. Thanks, from Jared." Well, actually, leopard geckos are really good. So are fat-tailed geckos. They're pretty good first-time geckos. They're very chilled out. They're actually pretty chill, just like this Tokay gecko. Usually Tokay geckos are not this chill when they're not tame, but when the Tokay gecko is tame, then they're pretty chill like this. But if you don't have any experience taming geckos, I wouldn't get a Tokay just yet, unless you're incredibly patient. But yeah, leopard geckos are a really good choice, so I would definitely get a leopard gecko. But don't forget to do all your research and find out what kind of cage it needs, and the heat, and everything else, and the diet. Very important to do lots of research before you get your pet reptile. Alrighty, so let me see another message here. Let's see, this one is from Bong Headification. This is one about the electric blue gecko. Yeah, those are actually pretty cool. They're these little day geckos. They're about this big and they're neon blue. They're pretty awesome. The females are kind of a green color, but the males are blue. So this says, "Hi Reptile Whisperer, I've always wanted a gecko and fell for this blue gecko. I've only had pets like dogs and cats, you know, so I wanted to ask you some questions and would really appreciate it if you would take some time answering. I ask you because you seem to know a lot about geckos and I just want to be sure so I can give him/her the best conditions possible. The questions are, how big should the enclosure be for this gecko?" Okay, well, for the little tiny electric blue day geckos, a 10-gallon tank is fine, but you want to make sure that it's a tall tank and not a long tank, since they are a boreal species. So they want a tall cage, and it should be glass, so that way it'll hold in humidity. What would you recommend feeding them? Well, you can feed them the same kind of diet as the giant day geckos. You can actually purchase a diet that's for giant day geckos. It's like the same thing as the crested gecko diet. It's just a powder that you mix with water. It has all the nutrients, all the vitamins, the calcium, everything is in there, protein. You just mix it with water, put it in a little dish, and feed it to the gecko. Or you can feed that and then also give insects too every once in a while, because they do eat insects as well as fruit and nectar and things like that. Now, how often should I give them vitamins? Well, if you're giving a complete diet, then it'll already have like all the vitamins in there, so you don't need to add anything to that. That's only if you're giving them the straight diet and nothing else. If you are giving insects, you want to dust with calcium about once a week. And then you also want to dust with vitamins once a month. Is a UVB light necessary? Some say it's not, others say it's a must. Well, they can be kept without UVB if you give calcium with D3. But I would only let really experienced keepers do that, because these are diurnal, which means they're active in the daytime, so they do require more D3 than, let's say, a nocturnal species. So I would use a UV light. I would use a 5.0 as the strength on your UV light. No higher or lower. And let's see here. How is the easiest way to regulate the temperature day and night? Well, that all depends on the room that you keep your cage in, and what kind of cage it is. So I don't really know how to answer that for you. If you have problems keeping it warm at night, you can get a ceramic heat emitter, which lets off no light. That way it won't disturb the gecko at night, and you can just have that on. You probably won't need a very high one, maybe like a 60 watt. And the same for your daytime basking light. It's probably not gonna, you probably won't need more than 60 watts. But what you need to do is you need to get a temp gun. They're these guns you just hold, you point and click. It's a little laser shoots out, and it reads the temperature of your area that you're doing it. And you want to shoot that wherever your basking spot is for the daytime, and then just shoot that in there at night, you know, after the lights are turned off after a couple hours, and, you know, see how that is and how that goes. You can also get like digital thermometers to put in your cage, and that way you can look at it all the time too. And yeah, and that's all he has here. Alrighty, so let's go to the next one. Oh, this one is just fan message, no question there. Same thing here. Oh, here we go. Amazon tree boa. What is your opinion of Amazon tree boas? Can they be tamed down? If anyone knows, I think it would be you. Well, you know, I don't really know how to answer this, because, you know, I think everything can be tamed down. If you're just really patient, you move very slowly, you're gentle with the animal, you know, you don't do anything to be viewed as a predator towards the reptile, I believe anything can be tamed down. But it's just up to you, you know, like, Are you the type of person that has a lot of patience? Are you going to be willing to, you know, change the way that you move and, you know, work with the reptile every single day for maybe like 10 to 15 minutes? You know, so that's really up to you. I mean, if you have a lot of patience, then I would say, you know, you can go ahead and try. With any reptile, the best thing to do when you want a tame reptile is to get it as young as possible. As young as possible, and hold it every single day, even if it's just for a couple minutes a day. And that is the best way to tame any kind of reptile, because what you're doing is you're building trust. It's not really that you're taming them. It's just, you know, you're building a trust relationship, you know, where they're not afraid of you and they don't look at you as a predator anymore. They're not afraid that you're going to eat them. Because that's really why reptiles, you know, act out and they're scared and they try to run, or even, you know, whenever they're aggressive and they're trying to bite, it's just because they're really afraid of you. You know, they're going to do anything they can do to get away. So once you build trust with them, then they'll be, you know, they'll trust you and be fine. Just like this little tokay gecko right here. And this is Sabrina, by the way. I've had her on some of my other videos. I actually got her when she was a tiny baby. So Sabrina is extremely, extremely tame. I could probably do anything to her and she would not do anything. Oh, Sabrina, you are just a cutie. I know, I really love these tokay geckos. They're really awesome when you have tame ones. And they just chill, just like she's been doing this whole video. They just chill out, hang out. They're pretty awesome. Alrighty, so let me see the next question here. Let's see. Somebody asking if I sell stuff. Oh, okay. Here's one about Auslitz chameleons. It says, I purchased a pair of Auslitz chameleons about 3 months ago. How do I go about introducing the female to the male for breeding? I tried it once about a month ago and the male didn't seem interested. When is their breeding season? Well, for Auslitz chameleons, you need to know how old they are, because they're not going to breed until they're about 2 years old. That's when they reach sexual maturity. So they're not even gonna think about breeding until they're 2 years old. And then whenever you do it, I would just hold the one chameleon outside of the other chameleon's cage. And it doesn't really matter. Usually I try to introduce with my pair of Auslitz chameleons that I had that bred, I took the male and held the male in my hand and walked over to the female's cage, because I didn't have them I didn't have them view each other, because sometimes when chameleons see each other they get really stressed out. So I have them where they can't see each other. And then I would just take the male and hold it right in front of the female's cage. Now, of course, the male is probably going to be interested in wanting to go in there. The female, on the other hand, if she's interested, then you'll know, because she'll be receptive looking, look really happy, have her happy colors, turn like, light green. Now, if she's unhappy and she's not receptive to the male, she does not want any part of him, you'll see she'll get like these really dark green bands all across her body, like kind of like tiger stripes, but really thick. And she'll have like some burgundy here on the chin, and she'll open her mouth really wide, and she'll kind of like do this rocking thing like this with her mouth open, trying to scare away the male. That's her trying to tell him, no, I'm not ready to breed, please get, away from me. So that's how you know. And I mean, whenever they're ready, that's just up to them. They don't really have like a certain set time. At least I didn't really notice mine having a set time. I would just periodically, like I said, hold the male in front of the female's cage, and if she was ready, she would turn bright green, and I don't know, she kind of had like the come hither look. You'll know it when you see it. But whenever you see that, just open up the cage and let the male go right in, and he'll walk right in there, and he'll walk right over to the female. I actually have some videos on here my Alset's chameleons breeding. You might have to search for those and check it out to see what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's pretty much it about the Alset's chameleons. Let me see here. Okay, I'm looking for... Oh wow, this is a really long message here. Alrighty, well I'm gonna cut this short and I'll make another video with this message that's on here, because this is a lot. And I only have like a certain time limit for my for my videos. Alright, well, I guess I'll talk to you in a few.